Hello everybody, welcome back. I hope you've been enjoying the weekend wow. Thank you very much to the design team for all the hard work. The samples are always fantastic and it's the design team that bring everything to life. So without the design team, none of the shows would be possible. So thank you very much to the design team. So this time around, I'm going to have a look at the camera again, just to see what kind of project you could do with the camera once again. I'm trying to give lots of ideas because this element here would be so easy to use because you can add that with the case or with the camera or with the fern. I want to give you ideas of what you can do with the focal imagery. So what I've got here is I've got a piece of card 4.5 inches square, and I'm going to work with those colours that I used a couple of demos ago, tea dye and aged mahogany, because I fell in love with them. So, but this time I'm going to apply them in a different way. Let's just move our stamp set out of the way, and I'm going to apply my ink directly to the acetate. So I'm applying the tea dye directly to the acetate, and you need to make sure you give it a little shuffle. Don't press it down because you'll get lines from the ink pad. Give it a little shuffle while you craft. And then what you want to do is spritz that with water. Give it a good spritz with water, and then you can smoosh that onto your background. It just means you can add the ink exactly where you want it, on your card. Now, if you've got the time, allow that to dry naturally. Don't dry it with the heat tool. The reason you let it dry naturally is you get these darker areas, which are really appealing. But obviously, I don't have that luxury, so I'm just going to give that a little dry now with my heat tool, just a little waft. And then I'm going to go to the aged mahogany. Now, this is quite a strong colour. So just smoosh that ink onto your acetate once again, giving it a little wiggle so that you don't get those straight lines, and then apply that to the card. I'm loving these two colours together. I've got a new favourite colour scheme now. So it's funny how I just changed from colour scheme to colour scheme. So that's plenty of aged mahogany, and just give that a spritz with water, because that will just oxidize the ink. It'll just give it a cloudiness, so it gives it a lovely effect. I'll probably add some more of the lighter colour, so then give that a dry. And I do love the blend of those two colours together, so just give that a dry. But as I say, when you're at home, if you can allow that to dry naturally, you'll get a much better effect, and you'll get a lot more oxidization if you let it dry naturally. I'm force drying it because of time constraints. But look at this here, this element here, this dark element, and then the oxidization. And that's just applying it with a piece of acetate. Just fabulous. Just a nice, simple technique. Sometimes the simple techniques are the best. So I'm just dabbing up some of that moisture just from my card. Just going to turn it over just to dry it a little bit more. Now, if you let it dry naturally, obviously your card won't curl. It'll dry nice and flat. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to bring in the camera image. Now, I want it to be a nice snug fit. So I'm just going to ink the camera, just that camera element. I don't necessarily need the text. It doesn't matter if I get all the text, but I don't necessarily need it, and it won't fit on that 4.5 inch square element. So I'm just giving that a nice firm inking. Good even layer of ink. It's a reasonably sized stamp, is this, so you just need to make sure you give it a really good inking, especially with that lining and graining. So what I can do now is I can add this camera on a slant. Keep my card straight, but add the camera on a slant, like so. And then just allow that ink to sit, because there's a lot of moisture in that card from the oxides and the water. So just allow that to sit and just give it time for the ink to rest. So I'm just giving that time. And again, I can lift that acrylic block to make sure I get these central areas here. And I'm not in a rush to to rush the stamping. I'm just giving it time to sit. And this 1967, that's my birth year, because I thought it would be a piece of me on the stamp set. That's actually my birth year. There you go. I'm giving away my age. So you'll always know my age from now on. So just a good inking and then lift. And there you get a beautiful, beautiful image. Just remove this excess ink from the outside and just give that a dry, or you can blot the ink, whichever you prefer. I'm going to do a mixture of both here just to make sure that ink is nice and dry. I will blot as well, just in case, because I'm over cautious of you can soon ruin a project through rushing. So just make sure that's nicely done. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the suitcase again, because I'm going to use those numbers from the suitcase. So take the suitcase, and you could obviously, these would be perfect for scrapbook layouts. So they'd work beautifully for scrapbook layouts, especially when we can start traveling again and you then scrapbook those times away that you have. So I'm just going to add some stamped elements around the page. And this aged mahogany works beautifully for the stamping, for adding the random stamping. I do like that. And I'm going to have to add it in threes just because that's the way I am. I can't add it in even numbers. You just get into habits. I do anyway. I just get into strange habits. And just adding a little bit of the stamped element. So just give that a dry. Just bend my card a little bit. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp this circular element over the top. So I'm going to stamp this circular element. I've got that many bits and pieces all over my desk. So I'm then going to take the camera again. And what I want to do is get sort of, how am I going to, yes, I want part of 1967 there. So I'm just going to ink that part of the stamp, because I just want part of the stamp. And this just gives me another layered element to the design. That's all it is, to give me another layered element. I just love adding textural pieces to the card. So maybe not have the whole of the year on, just have part of it, like so. It's a good job I'm talking to a camera, because most of the time I do talk to myself when I'm doing things like this and I'm trying to get the stamping correct. I often spend a lot of time talking to myself, and I answer myself back. It's the first sign of madness, really, isn't it? I know. I just admit it on camera. So now we've got that stamped element on my circular piece. So again, I'm going to blot that just to make sure I don't smudge that ink. Just give it, and then give that a dry, just to make sure that we're completely dry. Let me just add this, and then what you're going to do is add this element over the camera element, like so. You've got to make sure it's lined up properly. So it will go like that. That's it. You just have to look how sometimes when you're working with circular pieces, it can be quite deceiving on the eye, the way you want to line it up. It's funny, really. So I'm just going to add this. And now my glue, of course, won't work because we're live on the camera. There we go. We've got it flowing again. I always test the glue before we go live. So I'm just going to give that a good inking, a good dose of glue. Then what I'm going to do is just make sure that everything is lined up. Just make sure it's lined up properly. And you have to work reasonably quickly, because this adhesive takes hold quite quickly. So that is fab. That is lovely. Really nice. So then what I'm thinking is I can add this circular element here, just to give it a circular detail. What you could also do is you could also, let me give you a few other options. You could also add this. So then you would get a dimensional camera. So you could add this. This is just a container from some embellishments. So you could add that to your camera and you would get a dimensional element to your camera, especially if you were doing a shadow box. If you were creating a shadow box, that would work quite well. Or you can use the optical lens, and the optical lens works quite nicely. In fact, I like the optical lens more than the frame. So I'm going to add the optical lens to this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the colour of the optical lens just a little bit. Just add a little bit of gold, just to change it up a little bit. Just with using that mahogany, that aged mahogany, I think the gold just goes, you know, it sort of coordinates with it a little bit better. So I'm just adding that gold element, just because I think it works a little bit better. And then I can add this over the camera. So just add my adhesive, and this will dry clear, and it's quite a strong adhesive, so it will take quite nicely. Then we can apply that over there. Now what you could do for those scrapbookers or those that like to record photographs or anything like that, you could add a photograph behind the optical lens. You could add a photograph. So if it was somebody's birthday, you could add a photograph behind the optical lens, which would also work quite well as well. What I'm going to do then is just add this to a black mount. So just take my glue, because then I can see what I'm working with. If I use a black mount, I can see what I'm working with. So just, and the black will just make it pop a little bit more. And I always think that it looks finished off if I add a mount. And what we're going to create, this is going to be a little book cover. So it's going to be a little book cover. So just add those elements there, like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the stamp set. So we're going to have a look at the stamp set, and I'm going to use the word memories or moments, either of those. I think moments, because with a camera you capture memories and moments, so it works beautifully for either of those with the camera image. And I'm hoping that my friend Anne, I'm hoping that her sample has arrived and that you get to see the beautiful 3D camera that Anne has made. It is absolutely fantastic. So that really shows you another way to use the stamp set. Very clever way to use the stamp set. Shows you an alternative way that you can use your dimensional projects, your 3-dimensional elements as well. So that's a nice way to use it. So I'm now going to stamp onto a piece of calico. Stamp the moments onto calico. If I can get that to lie nice and flat, and just add moments to there, like so. The best bit is always seeing how you, the customers, and the design team work with the stamps, just seeing how you interpret them. I love that bit. So I'm going to add this moments element here, like so. I'm just deciding, do I want that on a slant as well? Yes. This is, I always play around with the ideas. So I'm just going to add this here, and I'm loving these extra fibres from the torn edges. So we'll just add this behind and add this here, like so. So I like those torn edges. And then what I'm going to do is add one of these little tiny bulldog clips. And I'm trying to, do you know, have you noticed I'm doing quite a few things that are quite fiddly just lately? So I'm just trying to add. It won't adhere. I can't get it to go on that. Let's use the bigger one. That's better. Let's use the bigger one. So I'm just going to, again, use the wax just to change this to a bit of a gold colour. So it's got a bit of a gold tinge. so it doesn't look quite so sparkly silver, just to give it a little bit of a gold tinge. I'll just clean my hands. And it's just adding these elements. I just think that's part of the fun. And then you add this to here, like so. So we'll add that there, like a little bulldog clip. I love adding the little embellishments. Just makes me happy. So add the bulldog clip, like so. You can imagine this just reminds me, using the bulldog clip as if you'd got photographs and you were hanging them up on the wall with bulldog clips. That's where me thinking is going anyway. That's what I was thinking. And then what I'm thinking then is I've got some of this film strip ribbon. Well, it's not a ribbon, it's actually plastic. It's actually a plastic. I've had this for years, but it's about time that we used some of it because it's perfect. But also, I think I've got it here, I've also got these old film strip pieces. They'd work quite well as well. Sorry about the glare with the plastic, but those film strip, or if you've got any film strip dies, they would work quite well. So I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive to either end of my film strip, and it will dry clear, so I'm not too worried. And just add this. The thing is now, you've got to allow this to just set a few moments. So I'm just going to sit there. So obviously you could imagine adding a photograph behind that and then creating a little album. And that's my idea behind this thinking, is to create it and add it to a book cover, which I've got all set. I'm just wanting, I don't think these are going to take while we're on camera. So what I'm, oh, that one has. So what I'm going to do is just get my little my little stapler. So just get my little stapler and staple them into place. Just a little bit. That's it, like so. So I've now stapled them into place. But if you just want to use your glue, then you can. And what I've got here is a book cover. So what I was thinking is you could add this to your little, so all as this is a piece of card that I've scored so that I've got a panel in the middle. Then I can add my book pages to the panel. So that's just all as it is just to make a book cover. So, and then I could add all the details behind here, memories and different things like that. And if you add this to that book cover, I've now got the start of a book, which I could also create for another project. So what I'm going to do is just add a few little white splatters just to my project, like so. That's better. I always like the white splatters, just clear that mess up a little bit. And then I'm going to add a little clip at the side here just to finish it off. Nice simple project, but the idea is that you add it to a book cover. That was the whole plan, that you add this to a book cover. But I do think it'd be fun to add some photographs behind that optical lens. I think that would be fab. I think that would work really well. I will probably add something to here just to add that. But that sort of gives you an idea. If you add it to the book, there's your book cover. And you get a nice little project. And this little bulldog clip just reminds me of when you add photographs to like a washing line, that kind of concept. And that's our next demo. So I'll be back shortly. See you soon. Bye.